Good morning, everyone. Today I've come to Rudston Church, and specifically just to share a strange account that I was told only a few months ago. I think I've spoken about it a couple of times. And beautiful morning, probably about 8:30 a.m. and there is the incredible Rudston Monolith, the Rood Stone. Many stories attached to the Rudston Monolith, but this is just a strange account from the 1990s that I'd like to share with you. And it involved a newlywed couple who'd come to East Yorkshire, come to the seaside for the day and just get out of that sun. And on the way back home, the husband, who was then in his late 20s I believe, decided that he would like to look at the Rudston Monolith, Britain's tallest standing stone, and a monolith, not a megalith, taller than the megaliths of Stonehenge. So he visits for the day. His wife decides that she wants to sit in the car, so we'll walk down towards where my car's parked. Then you get a perspective, and then we'll walk back and tell the actual story. So there's my car, and there's a little bit of an entrance. The car was pulled a little bit further along because she could see from the passenger door window her husband. So imagine that opening there and the car being pulled down a little bit more, and she's looking at her husband. So he walks towards the monolith. It's a beautiful day, probably not unlike today. And he bumps into a couple who are dressed in strange clothing. Really strange attire, almost gothic. He thought they'd been to some reenactment or something like that. He'd got kind of skins on his shoulders and leather on his arms. And they say hello, have a short conversation, and they walk towards the monolith, just discussing the stone. Dressed very unusual, but similar age to this man and his wife, who still sat in the car observing all of this. And the lady, at some point during the conversation, asks him to touch the monolith. Asks him to touch it and says to him, "Can you feel it pulsing? Can you feel this stone vibrating?" To which he replies that he can't. She says, "Well, can you feel the warmth?" Well, it was a warm day, and the stone did feel slightly warm, but that's all it was. Now this couple spoke slightly different, and obviously dressed different, but other than that, everything was okay. They were nice, warm, genuine enough people to spend a little bit of time with, be it strangers that you've just bumped into. 5 or 10 minutes passed, and he decides, because his wife's waiting in the car, it's time to go, and he says his farewells. The lady steps forward and gives him a warm embrace, really warm hug, quite familiar for somebody that he'd only just met 5 or 10 minutes previous. And the man steps forward, offers to shake his hand, but doesn't shake his hand. He clasps his arm around his forearm and says something, words to the effect of "Travel well, my friend." And then the goodbyes are said, and all three of them proceed to walk back towards the entrance, towards his wife waiting in the car, probably exchanging a few words as well. But that's the gist of what happened. So the couple go on their way, and nothing else is said. He jumps into the car. When he gets in the car, his wife says, "What have you been doing? You've been a long time. I thought you would be back before now, and you're acting quite strange." He said, "Well, talking to that young couple." And she looks at him kind of confused, and much to his surprise, she says, "You were completely alone. No one else was with you when you were walking around the Rudston Monolith." So, did this man encounter time travellers when he came to Rudston in the 1990s? Is it possible that these people were from some other sphere of existence? I guess we'll never know, but it's a puzzling one. His wife watched him as he walked around the monolith. With his two newly found friends, yet she never saw anything. Crazy. And don't forget, if you found that interesting and you want to hear more stories of the strange and of the unusual, feel free to press the like and subscribe. Totally free, helps support our channel a little bit, and just gives us a little bit more incentive to do these short accounts. On cue. How good is that?